Hello, welcome to Old Nerd Reads his Marvel Comics in Order, episode number 104. This time I read Uncanny X-Men number 103, or as it was called at the time, just X-Men. This was before they were uncanny. At this time, they were still the all-new, all-different. So I'm reading it via Classic X-Men number 11. I don't actually own this issue. Some of my early X-Men collection I have holes, and some of the early issues I don't own yet, such as say Giant Size X-Men number 1. I've never been able to come across a copy of that, and at this point it's probably hopeless because they're so expensive. But I'm reading, for the purposes of this video series, reading my Marvel Comics in Order, I'm reading my Uncanny X-Men via Classic X-Men, because I don't want to take my old Uncanny X-Men that are worth money out of their bags just to read them. I mean, I would, but I like the Classic X-Men because it has the updated material in it. Plus it has the backstory. There's a second story in each issue. So I'm reading these for this video series. Now, this is the first cover that's not by Art Adams. Kind of a disappointment. It's Bob Layton. Now, I just had a comment on a couple of videos back. Old Nerd Reads his Marvel Comics in Order number, what was it? It was Iron Man. Episode 101. I read Iron Man number 95, and there was just a comment on there. Somebody said that they loved George Tuska's artwork on Iron Man and thought that Bob Layton's wasn't as good. And I said, well, yeah, I dig George Tuska's artwork on this issue of Iron Man, but I prefer Bob Layton. But this cover, I do not care for at all. I kind of dig the way he draws Juggernaut. Bob Layton draws like big oversized guys like Colossus, Juggernaut, Hercules, Thor. Some of the bigger characters in Iron Man, like the Iron Monger. The bigger characters, he draws them good. I really like it. But the layout of this cover, it's basically trying to be a recreation of the original Dave Cockrum cover. And it's not as good, I don't think. I like Bob Layton a lot, but he's no Art Adams. And this just, I don't know, seems kind of phoned in to me. But anyway, I digress. This is the Classic X-Men series that came out in the mid-'80s. This was published in 87. This was a reprint series when the X-Men were huge, like in 85, 86. I think the first issue of this came out in 86. And the X-Men were huge at the time, so they started Classic X-Men reprinting all of the X-Men titles from Giant Size X-Men on up with new cover artwork, usually by Art Adams, and a second story with art by John Bolton. Usually Art Adams would draw the cover and he would draw the frontispiece. This time, though, you get a really cool old Mike Mignola frontispiece. This is early Mike Mignola when he was just starting. Well, probably not just starting in 1987. He'd probably been doing some stuff there for a couple years at this point. But really, his style's really starting to coalesce now. This is starting to look like what would become Hellboy at this time. So, in 87, there was still another 5 or so years before Mike Mignola would go to Dark Horse Comics and start his Hellboy franchise. But this really starting to look like what Mike Mignola would do later with Hellboy, his style. Now, really cool. I really liked Mike Mignola at this period. He was really great. And this issue, a lot of times they'll add in some extra pages to kind of like retcon the original story, to correct some things that had been changed continuity-wise. This issue I didn't think had one, but then I look at this page, and this page does not look... It looks like somebody trying to be Dave Cockrum. It does not look like Dave Cockrum, but it looks like somebody trying to draw like Dave Cockrum. That looks very Cockrum right there, but the face is not so much. I don't know. It might be Cockrum. I actually asked Grok if Dave Cockrum returned to update any panels or pages for this title, and it said he didn't. But I don't know. This page, like you can read this page, skip this page, go right to the third page here, and it makes perfect sense if you go right from here to here. This is like a recap. This page is just like a recap, which Marvel Comics usually does. That was a big thing with Jim Shooter. He said that every comic is somebody's first comic, so you have to kind of give a one or so page recap of what's gone before so that a brand new reader can be brought up to speed quickly. And that seems like what this is. And they kind of had it here. So I don't know. It just seems like this was added later, but maybe I'm wrong. If anybody out there knows, please comment down below. But this is a really fun issue. There's Leprechauns, and this one I'm pretty sure is Spock from Star Trek, the original series, Leonard Nimoy. A couple of times this same Leprechaun shows up in here, and he just looks like Spock to me. But Nightcrawler, he got saved by the Leprechauns in the last issue after getting knocked out by the Juggernaut. The Juggernaut knocked the rest of the X-Men out as well, but Nightcrawler was saved through a trap door or something, a secret door in the wall by these Leprechauns that live in Cassidy Keep. That's where they're at. They're inside of Banshee's castle in Ireland, Cassidy Keep. And this is Banshee's cousin, Black Tom Cassidy, who set a trap for the X-Men there. Him and the Juggernaut ambushed the X-Men there. And they've got them captured. And it looks just like a few issues back when they were on the space station and Stephen Lang had them captured. It looks like that Wolverine looks like he's in the same kind of manacles that he was similarly in the space station a few issues back, right before Phoenix was born or killed, or Jean Grey was killed. Anyway, this is kind of a silly MacGuffin here too. What is it? Yeah, so he's put this glove on. Once I activate my neuronic tangler glove, we can begin our work here in earnest. Well, apparently it's a torture device. Like, he's using it to torture the X-Men because he knows that the X-Men have a psychic rapport with Charles Xavier. And back in New York, Xavier feels Storm's pain. So he knows that the X-Men are being attacked or hurt. He also has another hallucination dream. This is Princess Lilandra, another early Starjammers, Shi'ar Empire tease. But they have a really good fight back here at Cassidy Keep. Nightcrawler, who has been rescued by the Leprechauns living inside the castle, he has a plan. He appears before Black Tom Cassidy and the Juggernaut as Professor Xavier, using his image inducer, which he uses to disguise himself from looking like a blue furry demon, so he can look like a normal person when he's walking the street. Basically, it creates a hologram, and he uses it to make himself look like Professor X. And Professor X and the Juggernaut are half brothers. The Juggernaut wants to kill him, so the Juggernaut just takes off, runs at him, and since he's not expecting him to be able to get away, he smashes into the wall. And he just, Nightcrawler, as Professor X, just mocks the Juggernaut and basically takes both of them out. This is a great panel right here. I love that picture of Juggernaut smashing the control panel as Nightcrawler leaps to safety. But Juggernaut knocks a hole in the wall. He's so angry. He knocks a hole right through the wall, which allows the sunlight to come in, the clear blue sky. Aurora, Storm, who has been a cowering, whimpering child since last issue because she has severe claustrophobia from an incident that happened when she was a little girl, where she was buried alive for a while. She was rendered useless. She couldn't help the X-Men fight Juggernaut, and because of her claustrophobia. But now that this hole's been knocked in the wall, now she sees the sky. Now she's finally free, and she blows everybody, Wolverine, Colossus, almost Banshee, but Colossus or Juggernaut catches him, blows him right out the wall, lets Colossus and Wolverine fall. Wolverine calls Storm a broad, and Peter, he really, either he's got a crush on Storm or he's just like, he really likes her like as a friend, and he won't let Wolverine refer to Storm as a broad. Don't do it again, shorty. Now see here, does that not look like Leonard Nimoy, Dr. Spock from Star Trek, the original series? It does to me. That's that little leprechaun again. But they save Nightcrawler again. Storm and Wolverine and Colossus outside of the castle are collecting themselves. Meanwhile, Black Tom, Juggernaut, with Banshee still a captive, they head up to the top of the tower, which is where all the action happens, you see. And they're going to use Banshee to lure the rest of the X-Men back up into the castle. Storm takes right off. Wolverine, again, calls her a crazy broad for charging into the battle. And for that, Colossus says, I told you not to call her a broad. And he throws Wolverine up over the castle wall. And then he starts to climb up just by using his hands. Black Tom's had some sort of plasma laser defense system installed on the top of the castle. That's shooting at Storm. She calls in a real Storm. Peter, Colossus, he's still crawling up the castle as the Juggernaut throws boulders down at him. Wolverine lands clear on the wrong side of the castle, and here is where this particular issue of the X-Men is kind of got its key moment. It's the first time that Wolverine is referred to as Logan. One of the Leprechauns refers to him as Mr. Logan, and Wolverine says, how do you know my name? And Leprechauns just know that sort of thing. But anyway, he's leading Wolverine back to where the fight is. Nightcrawler, saved by the little people again, the Leprechauns again, he lets Banshee go, and Banshee gets free. Using his sonic scream, drops Juggernaut through the stone floor, where he's immediately faced with Wolverine, Colossus, and Storm. And then it's a cousins fight. Black Tom Cassidy and Banshee are cousins. And they have the same kind of thing going on as Scott Summers and Alex Summers have, Cyclops and Havoc. Their powers cancel each other's out. I don't know if that's just like a family thing that Chris Claremont used when he was writing the X-Men. Like if you were related and you both had mutant powers, that canceled each other out, so you couldn't use your powers on each other. But anyway, they get into a sword and battle axe fight. And Banshee flips Black Tom over the turret and down into the drink below. And Juggernaut he considers Black Tom his friend. So he dives into the ocean after him. And that's the end. Except for this quick teaser we get of Omega Red. Is that his name, Omega Red? What is his name? Nightcrawler mentions it back here. Let me see here. So, Eric the Red. That's what his name is. We have a little cameo appearance of him right here talking to Black Tom Cassidy in the shadows. Eric the Red. So we've got Eric the Red talking to somebody from the Shi'ar from outer space. We don't know that yet in 1976 when this came out, when this originally came out. We didn't know about the Shi'ar and Lilandra and everything going on, but Eric the Red is the Shi'ar's agent on Earth trying to stop Princess Lilandra, who Xavier keeps dreaming of, trying to stop her from arriving on Earth and meeting up with the X-Men. So Eric the Red's job is to prevent Lilandra from meeting up with the X-Men. And it looks like he's recruited Magneto for the next issue. Cool cliffhanger, more fights, that's what that sounds like. Now here's the backup story by Chris Claremont and John Bolton. Very good one. It's about a writer with writer's block in England. He's up against a deadline. He can't work through his writer's block. So he just decides to go out and walk through London. And he sees this tower, the GPO tower. I'm not sure what that is. Must have been something back in the 80s, 70s. I'm not sure when that would have been built, but it's the tallest building in London. He sneaks in. There's no security guard. Take note of that. There's no security guard. He goes all the way to the top floor, and he's looking over the edge, and there's Storm. Storm shows up. And he makes a big deal about how beautiful she is. And John Bolton really does a good job of drawing Aurora. Like, she is beautiful the way John Bolton draws her in this story. Like, just like a goddess, like she's celebrated as back in Africa. He really makes her beautiful. But basically she talks this writer out of killing himself, or takes him on a little flight to cheer him up. And they're having a talk, and then Aurora is whacked over the head by the security guard, but the writer notices that the clothes don't fit. And then, yes, this killer that has been stalking the streets of London, we got a little tease of it back here on like the third page of the story. The writer's walking down the street past the newsstand, and we see woman killer escapes. Police mount nationwide manhunt. So that's who this is. That's why there was no security guard at the tower when the writer showed up. The killer had clubbed the security guard and taken his uniform, and he snuck up behind Storm and bashed her over the head. And the writer's like, I can't fight this guy. He's a killer. And he thinks, I can't if I save her, she'll try to save me, is what he thinks. And at that point, he makes up his mind. He goes back and he engages with the killer, gives a Storm just enough time to come to and zap the killer with a lightning bolt, and then blow him up against the wall with a gust of wind and knock him out. So he isn't convinced that he will be able to write again, but he saves Storm, and that's kind of the end. And it's a very sweet story, I think. Very, very cool. Kind of the thing Chris Claremont was doing at this time, like to show off how good of a writer he was. It was a really good little. It's only like a dozen pages, maybe 10 pages, and he does a really good job, like just doing a sentimental little character study, and not even, it shows a lot about Storm's character, but it also is more based on this writer character and the impact that the superhero world has on his world. It's just kind of neat. Here's the original cover by Dave Cockrum. Again, I think better than the Bob Layton cover, which is too bad. Could have been Art Adams, but whatever. I love seeing Art Adams draw the Juggernaut. And but yeah, that's the original cover. And here is the back cover to match the backup story, The Killer and Storm. And that's Classic X-Men number 11, which is my proxy for X-Men 103, right? 103? Yeah, 103. So there you have it. Anybody know anything about this story, this era of the X-Men? Is this your favorite era? Do you prefer the later iteration of the X-Men, or this early team, this original new generation of X-Men? Comment it down below. If you know any other old nerds like us who would enjoy listening to me ramble about comic books, please share this. Stick around. I'm doing this video series, reading my Marvel comics in order. I'm starting at the earliest Marvel comic that I have and just reading through loosely in publishing day order and doing a video on each one. So if that sounds like fun, subscribe. Please give me a like and comment and subscribe if you would. And I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.